Commander Zeftar stood on the bridge of the Nexus Prime, his four eyes scanning the holographic displays that showed the empty darkness of space. The Catherian patrol ship was one of the most advanced vessels in the galaxy, equipped with sensors that could detect a single metal fragment from 3 star systems away. Today, those sensors had found something interesting. "Commander, we have an unknown contact," announced Lieutenant Crix from the sensor station. Her voice carried the usual confidence that came from serving on a ship that had never met its match. "The vessel appears to be drifting without power, approximately 2 million kilometers off our starboard bow." Zeftar moved to the central command platform, his tall, thin frame casting a shadow over the control panels. The Catherians had ruled this sector of space for over 300 years, and in all that time, they had never encountered a ship they could not easily destroy or capture. Their technology was simply too advanced, their weapons too powerful, their shields too strong. "Show me," he commanded. The main screen flickered to life, displaying a grainy image of a strange vessel tumbling slowly through space. It was unlike anything in the Catherian database. The ship looked crude, almost primitive, with a design that seemed more functional than elegant. Where Catherian ships were smooth and flowing, this vessel was angular and rough, covered in what appeared to be thick metal plating. "Analysis," Zeftar ordered. Crix's fingers danced over her console, running the ship through their advanced scanning systems. Length approximately 800 meters. The hull appears to be made of refined iron and steel alloys. Very basic construction. I'm detecting minimal energy readings, possibly from emergency power only. Weapons? Crude kinetic projectile systems, Commander. Nothing that could penetrate our shields. I'm also seeing what looks like missile tubes, but they appear to use chemical explosives rather than plasma or quantum warheads. Zeftar almost laughed. Chemical explosives? In space warfare? It was like bringing a stone club to fight against energy weapons. He had seen primitive species before, but this was almost insulting. Life signs? Difficult to read through their hull plating, but I'm detecting approximately 300 life forms. Their life support systems are running on minimal power. The ship appears to be in genuine distress. The commander studied the strange vessel for a long moment. Its design was so backward, so inefficient. The hull was far too thick, wasting precious space that could be used for better systems. The engines looked like they burned actual fuel rather than using clean fusion or antimatter. And those weapons? He had never seen anything so pathetically outdated. "Can you identify their species or origin?" he asked. Crix shook her head, her antennae twitching with concentration. "Negative, Commander. However, I am picking up some markings on their hull. It reads UES Defiance, and below that, United, Earth Space Navy. I've never heard of this Earth before." "Earth," Zeftar repeated the strange word. "Run it through our stellar databases." "Already did, sir. No match. This Earth is not in any of our records. Another primitive world, then. The galaxy was full of them, young species that had barely learned to leave their home planets, thinking they could explore space with their crude technology. Most of them were peaceful, eager to trade and learn from the advanced Catherian Empire. The few that were hostile quickly learned the error of their ways when they faced Catherian weapons." "Distance to the nearest Catherian outpost?" Zeftar asked. 6 days at current speed, Commander. 6 days. That would be enough time to thoroughly examine this primitive vessel and its crew. High Command was always interested in new species, especially ones that might have useful resources or slave labor. A ship like this, so obviously inferior, would make an excellent prize to present to the Admiralty. "Sir," called out the navigation officer, "should we render assistance? Their life support appears to be failing." Zeftar considered this. Helping them might make them grateful easier to handle. On the other hand, capturing them while they were helpless would be much simpler. And if they were truly as primitive as they appeared, they would pose no threat at all. "Tactical assessment," he ordered. The weapons officer, a large Catherian named Vorthak, consulted his displays. "Commander, their ship poses no credible threat to us. Our shields could absorb anything they might fire at us without even registering the impact. Their hull plating, while thick, would not survive even one shot from our plasma cannons. If they attempted to ram us, their ship would be vaporized before making contact. How long to disable them without destroying the ship? With our tractor beam? Immediately, sir. With weapons? A single low-power shot to their engine section would leave them completely helpless. Zeftar nodded slowly. This was almost too easy. A primitive ship, filled with an unknown species just waiting to be captured. The scientific data alone would be valuable, not to mention whatever resources their homeworld might offer. And if this United Earth Space Navy sent more ships, looking for this one, well, they would receive the same treatment. Lieutenant Kreeks, begin a detailed scan of their ship. I want to know everything about their technology, their weapons, their defensive capabilities. Leave nothing unchecked. Yes, sir. Initiating deep scan now. The sensors of the Nexus Prime reached out across space, penetrating the hull of the strange human vessel with invisible beams of energy. Every system, every component, every piece of equipment was analyzed and catalogued. The results only confirmed what Zeftar already suspected. Commander, this is almost embarrassing, Krix reported. Their computer systems are so primitive, they use actual physical storage devices. Their weapons are exactly what they appear to be, simple projectile launchers that fire metal slugs. Their shields, well, they don't have any shields at all, just that thick hull plating. And their engines are fusion-powered, but the design is at least 2 centuries behind our own technology. Population of their homeworld? Unknown, sir. But based on this ship's construction, I would estimate they are a young species. Probably only recently achieved interstellar flight. This might even be one of their first deep space missions. Zeftar smiled, showing his sharp teeth. A young species far from home, with only one primitive ship. They would be perfect for what he had in mind. High Command had been looking for new test subjects for their advanced interrogation techniques. These humans, if that was what they called themselves, would serve nicely. Helm, set intercourse for the alien vessel. We will take them aboard for questioning. Sir, the helmsman replied, should we attempt to communicate with them first? Standard. First contact protocols suggest, no, Zeftar cut him off. They are in no position to negotiate. We will take their ship, examine their technology, and question their crew. If they prove useful, we may allow some of them to live as servants. If not, he shrugged, the galaxy has no shortage of primitive species. As the Nexus Prime moved toward the drifting human ship, none of the Catherian crew noticed the subtle changes in the alien vessel's energy readings. They were too confident in their technological superiority to pay attention to small details. They had scanned the ship, analyzed its systems, and found it completely harmless. They had no way of knowing that the humans had been watching them in return, using sensors hidden deep within their hull plating. They could not detect the quantum communication burst that had already been sent, alerting Earth to the location and capabilities of this new alien threat. Most importantly, they did not realize that everything they had seen was exactly what the humans wanted them to see. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the UES Defiance, watching the alien ship approach on her screens. Around her, the bridge crew worked in complete silence, their faces calm despite the massive warship bearing down on them. Every person on the ship knew their role, and every system had been prepared for this moment. Distance? She asked quietly. 50,000 kilometers in closing, Captain, replied Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the navigation console. They're moving slowly, probably think we can't run away. Chen nodded. The aliens had taken the bait perfectly. For 3 weeks, the Defiance and her sister ships had been tracking this Catherian patrol, learning their patterns, studying their technology, waiting for the right moment to spring their trap. Today was that moment. Heat sinks? All heat sinks are loaded and ready, Captain. We can run cold for another 6 hours if needed. The heat sinks were one of humanity's greatest advantages in space warfare. While other species relied on constantly radiating their heat into space, humans had learned to store it temporarily, allowing their ships to become nearly invisible to thermal sensors. It was a technique born from Earth's submarine warfare, adapted for the cold darkness of space. Stealth ships? Retribution and Vengeance report ready, Captain. They're holding position behind the asteroid cluster. Exactly as planned. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The aliens thought they were facing one damaged ship, but they were actually walking into an ambush by 3 of Earth's most advanced warships. The Defiance might look primitive on the outside, but that was intentional. Humans had learned long ago that appearing weak was often better than showing your true strength. Communications. Patch me through to the fleet. You're connected. Captain. Retribution. Vengeance, this is Chen. The fish has taken the bait. Execute Plan Alpha on my signal. Retribution ready, Captain. Vengeance standing by. Chen turned to her weapons officer. Lieutenant Park, status on our surprise packages. All railgun systems charged and ready, Captain. Nuclear torpedoes are loaded and armed. Point defense systems are online. We're ready to show these aliens what human weapons can really do. The Catherian ship was now close enough that Chen could see it clearly on the main screen. It was beautiful in a way, all smooth curves and glowing energy conduits. It looked like a work of art compared to the angular, brutal design of human warships, but Chen knew that beauty often hid weakness. 30,000 kilometers, Captain. Signal. Strength from their scanning beams. Very strong, ma'am. They're conducting a deep penetration scan of our systems. Our fake damage readings are holding steady. That was another human advantage. Every Earth ship was designed with the ability to fake damage, to appear weaker than it actually was. The thick hull plating that the aliens saw as primitive construction actually contained sophisticated holographic projectors and false energy readings. To their sensors, the Defiance looked like a dying ship running on emergency power. In reality, every system was running at full capacity, just hidden behind layers of deception. 20,000 kilometers. Chen could feel the tension on the bridge, though none of her crew showed it. They were all veterans of the colonial wars, men and women who had learned to fight in the harsh environment of space. Unlike the aliens, who had grown soft from centuries of technological superiority, humans had never stopped fighting. Every new colony world brought new challenges, new enemies, new ways to die. It had made them strong. Captain, we're receiving a communication from the alien vessel. Put it on screen. The main display flickered, showing the bridge of the Catherian ship. The alien commander was tall and thin, with 4 eyes and sharp teeth. When he spoke, the universal translator converted his words into English. Unknown vessel. This is Commander Zeftar of the Catherian Empire. You will prepare to be boarded. Do not resist, and you will be treated according to our laws. Chen stood up, straightening her uniform. Open a channel. Channel open, Captain. Commander Zeftar, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy. I'm afraid I can't allow you to board my ship. The alien laughed, a harsh sound that made several bridge officers reach for their sidearms. Captain Chen, you are in no position to refuse. Your ship is damaged and helpless. We could destroy you in seconds if we chose to do so. Could you? Chen asked, her voice perfectly calm. Are you sure about that? Something in her tone must have warned the alien commander, because his expression changed. But it was already too late. Now, Chen said quietly. The bridge of the Defiance suddenly came alive with activity. Lights that had been dim blazed to full power. Systems that had appeared offline roared back to life. Most importantly, the weapons that the aliens had dismissed as primitive began to charge with deadly energy. What is this? Zeftar demanded, his voice rising in panic. This, Chen said, settling back into her command chair, is what happens when you threaten humanity. At her signal, 2 more human warships decloaked from their hiding spots behind the nearby asteroids. The Retribution and Vengeance had been waiting in complete silence, their stealth systems hiding them from the alien sensors. Now they moved into attack position surrounding the Catherian vessel. Impossible, Zeftar breathed. Our sensors showed nothing. Your sensors showed exactly what we wanted them to show, Chen replied. Lieutenant Park, you may fire when ready. The first salvo from the Defiance was a railgun round traveling at 20% the speed of light. The tungsten projectile, guided by advanced targeting computers, struck the Cytherian ship's shield generators with devastating force. The aliens had been right that their shields could stop primitive projectiles, but they had never faced anything moving at relativistic speeds. The shield collapsed in a flash of energy, leaving the alien ship defensively naked. "Shields down," Park reported. "Target is vulnerable. Retribution. Vengeance. You are cleared to engage." The space around the Cytherian ship erupted in weapons fire. Human railguns sent projectiles screaming through space while nuclear-tipped torpedoes curved in complex attack patterns. The aliens tried to return fire, but their plasma weapons were designed for long-range battles against other energy-based weapons. They had no experience fighting an enemy that used kinetic weapons and stealth tactics. "Their hull is stronger than expected, Captain," Park reported. "But we're getting through." Chen nodded. The aliens might have better technology, but humans had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of killing other humans. Every weapon system on Earth's ships had been tested in real combat, refined through actual warfare, improved by the blood of soldiers who had died learning what worked and what didn't. "Captain, the alien ship is attempting to retreat," Jackson reported. "Let them run," Chen ordered. "But make sure they remember this lesson." A final railgun round, fired from the Vengeance, punched through the Cytherian ship's engine section, crippling their main drive. The alien vessel limped away, leaking atmosphere and energy, barely able to maintain life support. "Damage report on enemy vessel?" Chen asked. "Severe damage to their propulsion and weapon systems, Captain. They're alive, but they won't be threatening anyone for a while." Chen stood and walked to the main screen, watching the alien ship disappear into the darkness. "Communications. Send a message to Earth Command. First contact has been established. The aliens are hostile, but their technology is not as advanced as they believe. Recommend immediate implementation of Defense Plan Omega." She turned to address her crew. "Ladies and gentlemen, you have just fired the first shots in what may be humanity's greatest war. The aliens thought we were weak, primitive, helpless. Today we showed them the truth. We are human beings, and we do not go quietly into the night." The bridge crew erupted in cheers, but Chen remained focused. This was just the beginning. Soon, the alien empire would learn what every enemy of humanity eventually discovered. Humans were not prey. They were predators, and they were very, very good at what they did. The battle was far from over. Commander Zeftar, his ship damaged but still fighting, refused to accept that his advanced Cytherian vessel could be defeated by primitive humans. He had called for reinforcements, and now 2 more Cytherian warships were approaching the battle zone. "Commander, the Nexus Prime is taking heavy damage," reported his tactical officer, Vorthak. "Our hull integrity is down to 60%, and we've lost main weapons." "Impossible," Zeftar snarled. "How can these primitives hurt us? Their weapons are crude metal projectiles." What he didn't understand was that those crude metal projectiles were moving at speeds that turned them into weapons of mass destruction. Each railgun round carried more kinetic energy than most species' primary weapons. When they hit, they didn't just penetrate armor. They vaporized it. Captain Chen watched the approaching reinforcements on her tactical display. 2 more alien ships, both larger than the first one. The odds were getting worse, but she wasn't worried. Humans had been fighting impossible odds for their entire history. "New contacts bearing 270, range 400,000 kilometers, reported Lieutenant Commander Jackson. "Looks like heavy cruisers, ma'am." "Time to intercept?" 12 minutes at current speed. Chen nodded. 12 minutes. That was enough time to finish off the first alien ship and prepare for the newcomers. She turned to her communications officer. "Signal retribution and vengeance. Execute attack pattern Delta. We're going to show these aliens what concentrated human firepower looks like." The 3 human ships moved into position, forming a triangle around the damaged Cytherian vessel. It was a classic Earth Navy tactic, developed during the colonial wars when human ships had to fight enemies that were bigger and better armed. The key was speed, coordination, and the willingness to take risks that other species would never consider. "All ships, focus fire on the aliens' reactor section," Chen ordered. "Let's end this quickly." The combined firepower of 3 human warships struck the Cytherian vessel like a hammer. Railgun rounds punched through the hull, creating massive holes that vented atmosphere into space. Nuclear torpedoes exploded against the ship's superstructure, their electromagnetic pulses disrupting alien electronics. Most devastating of all were the kinetic kill vehicles, solid metal rods that struck with the force of small meteors. But the aliens were not defenseless. Even damaged, the Nexus Prime was still a formidable opponent. Plasma beams lashed out at the human ships, their focused energy capable of melting through even the thick armor plates that protected Earth's vessels. The Defiance took a direct hit on her port side. The plasma beam burned through 20 meters of armor plating before being stopped by the ship's internal bulkheads. Atmosphere rushed out of the breach, carrying with it equipment, supplies, and 3 crew members who had been working in that section. "Damage report," Chen shouted over the alarm klaxons. "Port armor compromised, sections 12 through 18, reported the damage control officer. "We've lost life support to those areas, but the reactor is still stable." "Casualties?" 3 dead, 7 wounded. Medical teams are responding. Chen felt the familiar cold anger that came with losing crew members. It was a feeling that every human commander knew well. Unlike other species who might retreat or negotiate when they started taking losses, humans became more dangerous when their friends died. Weapons, target their plasma cannons. "I want that ship unable to shoot back." "Aye, Captain." The next salvo, from the Defiance, was aimed with surgical precision. Instead of trying to destroy the entire alien ship, the human gunners targeted specific systems. Railgun rounds severed power conduits. Missiles took out weapon emplacements. Within minutes, the mighty Catherian warship was reduced to a drifting hulk. "Target neutralized, Captain. The alien ship is dead in space." But there was no time to celebrate. The 2 reinforcement ships were now in weapons range, and they were firing everything they had at the human vessels. "Evasive maneuvers," Chen ordered. "All ships, scatter and reform. Don't let them concentrate their fire on anyone. Target." This was where human ship design showed its true brilliance. Where alien vessels were built for efficiency and elegance, human ships were built to take damage and keep fighting. Every critical system had backups. Every section could be sealed off if damaged. The crew was trained to keep fighting even if half the ship was destroyed. The Vengeance took a plasma beam that would have crippled most ships. The energy tore through her forward armor, destroying her main railgun and killing a dozen crew members. But within seconds, backup systems came online, secondary weapons took over, and the ship was fighting again. "This is impossible," Zeftar whispered, watching the battle from his disabled ship. "How do they keep fighting after taking such damage?" His tactical officer looked up from his instruments, confusion written across his features. "Commander, I've been analyzing their ship construction. It's not primitive at all. It's specifically designed for combat damage. Every system has multiple redundancies. Their entire ship is built around the assumption that it will be shot full of holes." That was the truth that no alien species had ever understood about humanity. Humans didn't build ships hoping they would never be damaged. They built them expecting to be shot at, and they made sure their vessels could keep fighting no matter what happened to them. The battle continued for another hour. The 2 fresh Catherian ships had more firepower than the humans, but they couldn't match human tactics and determination. Captain Chen split her forces, using the damaged Defiance as bait while the other 2 ships attacked from unexpected angles. The aliens tried to adapt, but their training focused on technological superiority, not tactical flexibility. When the humans did something unexpected, like ramming a damaged section of their ship into an alien vessel to destroy its shield generators, the aliens' computers couldn't predict or counter it. Finally, faced with the choice between total destruction or retreat, the surviving Catherian ships turned and fled, but not before Commander Zeftar had learned something that would haunt him for the rest of his life. "Sir," his communications officer called out as they limped away from the battle zone. "I've been monitoring human transmissions during the fight. You need to hear this." The bridge speakers crackled with human voices intercepted from the Earthship's internal communications. What Zeftar heard made his blood run cold. "Engineering, we need more power to the railguns. Bypass safety protocols, if you have to. Medical to Section 9. We have wounded, but keep fighting until the battle is over. This is Captain Chen to all ships. We've hurt them, but they're not finished yet. Remember what these aliens would do to Earth if we let them go home. No mercy. Acknowledged, Captain. For humanity. For humanity. It was the voices of warriors who had accepted death as the price of victory. Soldiers who would keep fighting until their ships were nothing but floating wreckage. People who viewed this battle not as a conflict between equals, but as a fight for the very survival of their species. As the Nexus Prime escaped into hyperspace, Zeftar realized with growing horror that he had not been fighting primitive savages. He had been fighting the most dangerous predator species the galaxy had ever produced, and now they knew where to find the Catherian Empire. Behind him, the human ships were already sending messages back to Earth, reporting their victory and requesting reinforcements. The war for the galaxy had begun and humanity intended to win it. The journey back to Catherian space took Commander Zeftar 5 days. 5 days of nursing his damaged ship through hyperspace, while his crew worked desperately to repair critical systems. 5 days of listening to intercepted human communications that revealed the true scope of what they had awakened. Commander, Lieutenant Crix called from her station, her voice tight with fear. You need to hear this transmission we intercepted from the human ships. Zeftar turned from the damage reports. He had been reading. His ship would need months of repair work, assuming they made it home at all. What is it? It's a message from the human ship Defiance to something called Earth Command. I've cleaned up the transmission as much as possible. The bridge speakers filled with the voice of Captain Sarah Chen, speaking in that calm, professional tone that had become terrifyingly familiar. Earth Command, this is Captain Chen reporting. First contact with hostile alien species confirmed. Enemy technology assessment complete. They are vulnerable to kinetic weapons and electromagnetic pulse devices. Their shields cannot stop relativistic projectiles, and their ship designs prioritize efficiency over combat survivability. Zeftar felt his stomach drop. The humans had not just fought them. They had been studying them, learning from every shot fired and every system damaged. The transmission continued. Enemy force composition appears to be patrol vessels and light cruisers. No evidence of heavy battleships or carrier vessels observed. Recommend immediate implementation of defense. Plan Omega. Alert all colonial fleets to prepare for possible alien incursion. Send deep space reconnaissance to map enemy territory and identify key targets. Defense Plan Omega? Zeftar asked. What does that mean? Crix's fingers flew over her console, running the phrase through their translation algorithms. I'm not certain, Commander, but based on context, it appears to be a predetermined military response to alien contact. The humans seem to have planned for this scenario. That was impossible. How could a species plan for meeting aliens they had never encountered before unless they planned for war with everyone they might meet? Another transmission crackled through the speakers, this one from a different human ship. Retribution to Earth Command. Enemy vessels show signs of overconfidence in their technology. They appear to have no experience with guerrilla warfare or asymmetric tactics. Recommend stealth raids on their supply lines and communication networks. They fight like they've never faced an enemy that could actually hurt them. Zeftar realized with growing horror that the humans were right. The Catherian Empire had been the dominant force in this region of space for so long that they had forgotten how to fight a real war. Their tactics were based on technological superiority, not combat experience. Sir, the communications officer interrupted. I'm picking up more human transmissions. These appear to be from their home system. Put them through. This time the voice was different, older with the authority of high command. All fleet commanders, this is Admiral Rodriguez at Earth Defense Command. We have confirmed contact with a hostile alien empire. Initial engagement reports indicate enemy forces are technologically advanced but tactically predictable. I am authorizing the activation of the Mars shipyards and the Jupiter defense platforms. All reserve fleets are to report to their assigned sectors immediately. Mars shipyards? Zeftar whispered. Jupiter defense platforms? The Admiral continued. Colonial Command reports readiness to implement the Scorched Earth Protocol if enemy forces approach any human world. All civilian populations are to be evacuated to designated safe zones. This is not a drill. Humanity is at war. Crix looked up from her console, her 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "Commander, if these transmissions are accurate, the humans have militarized their entire star system. They have ship construction facilities on multiple planets and defensive weapons platforms throughout their space. How many ships could they build?" Zeftar asked, though he was afraid of the answer. "Unknown, sir. But based on the energy signatures we detected from their home system during our long-range scans, potentially thousands. The entire Catherian fleet numbered perhaps 200 vessels, most of them designed for patrol duties rather than full-scale warfare. If the humans could build thousands of warships..." Another transmission interrupted his thoughts. This one was from the Human Ship Vengeance Command. "This is Captain Morrison. Our intelligence team has finished analyzing the alien computer systems we managed to hack during the engagement. We have preliminary data on their government structure, military organization, and territorial boundaries. Uploading to the strategic database now." Zeftar felt sick. While he had been focused on the battle itself, the humans had been stealing information from his ship's computers. They now knew more about the Catherian Empire than most Catherian citizens. "Sir," Vorthak called. From his station, "I'm detecting multiple hyperspace signatures behind us. At least 12 ships moving fast. Ours or theirs?" "Unknown, Commander. The signatures don't match any Catherian vessels in our database." On the main screen, 12 human warships dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. They were different from the ships they had fought before. Larger, more heavily armed, with hull designs that seemed to absorb scanner beams rather than reflect them. "This is Admiral Martinez of the Earth Space Navy," came a voice over the communication system. "Catherian vessel, you will reduce power to your engines and prepare to be boarded." "We're in Catherian space," Zeftar protested. "You have no authority here." "We have the authority of superior firepower," the Admiral replied calmly. "Stand down or be destroyed." Faced with 12 fresh warships while his own vessel was barely able to fly, Zeftar had no choice but to comply. As human boarding parties secured his ship, he listened to their conversations with growing despair. "Admiral, the computer core is intact. Intelligence teams are downloading everything. Star charts, military deployments, communication codes, the works." "Excellent. What about the crew?" "They're cooperating, sir. I think they're too shocked to resist." "Good. Make sure they're treated well. We want them to go home and tell their leaders what they've seen here today." Zeftar was escorted to the human flagship, where Admiral Martinez waited in a conference room that looked more like a military bunker than a ship's interior. The walls were lined with tactical displays showing the deployment of hundreds of human vessels throughout space. "Commander Zeftar," the Admiral said, gesturing for him to sit. "I want you to understand something. This war didn't have to happen. Your people attacked first without provocation, without even attempting to communicate. We were following standard procedures. Your standard procedures," Martinez interrupted, "involved capturing our people for slavery. Did you really think we would allow that?" The Admiral stood and walked to one of the tactical displays. "Let me show you what you've accomplished today. Because of your actions, humanity has united in a way we haven't seen since the colonial wars. Every human world is now dedicated to a single purpose, making sure that no alien species ever threatens Earth again." The display showed a 3-dimensional map of local space, with hundreds of icons representing human ships and installations. "We have 47 colony worlds, Commander. Each one has its own defense fleet. We have mining operations in over 100 star systems, each one capable of producing warships. And we have something your empire lacks: experience in real warfare." "What do you want?" Zeftar asked weakly. "I want you to go home," Martinez replied. "I want you to tell your leaders exactly what you've seen here. Tell them about our ships, our weapons, our willingness to fight, and then I want you to convince them to surrender." "Surrender?" "Complete and unconditional surrender. Because if they don't, we will come for them. And when we do, we won't be as gentle as we've been today." As Zeftar was escorted back to his damaged ship, he realized the full magnitude of his mistake. In trying to capture one primitive human vessel, he had provoked a war with the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever produced. The humans let him go as promised. But as his ship limped toward home, he could see human vessels following at a respectful distance, mapping every Catherian outpost, cataloging every weakness, preparing for a war that the Catherian Empire could never win. High Admiral Thessarian of the Catherian Empire stood before the assembled Council of Lords, her expression grim as she delivered the report that would change their civilization forever. The great council chamber, with its soaring crystal walls and floating platforms, had seen many momentous decisions over the centuries. None would be as important as what was decided today. "The situation is worse than we initially believed," she began, her voice carrying clearly through the vast space. Commander Zeftar's encounter was not with a single primitive vessel, as first reported. "We have awakened something that should have remained dormant." Lord Vexthul, eldest of the council members, shifted uncomfortably on his platform. "Explain." Thessarian activated the holographic display at the center of the chamber. A three-dimensional map of local space appeared, showing the Catherian Empire's territory in blue. Red markers began appearing throughout the display, spreading like an infection. "These are confirmed human military installations," she said. "In the 3 weeks since Commander Zeftar's return, human fleets have appeared in 47 star systems. They're not exploring, my lords. They're conquering." The council erupted in angry voices, demanding to know how primitive aliens could threaten their empire. Thessarian waited for the noise to die down before continuing. "The humans are not primitive. That was our first mistake. Their ships appear crude because they are designed for one purpose only: warfare. While we have spent centuries perfecting elegant technology, they have spent the same time learning how to kill efficiently." She changed the display to show a recording from the battle. The council watched in stunned silence as human ships absorbed devastating damage and continued fighting. "Watch carefully," Thessarian said. "When our plasma cannon strikes their vessel, it should have destroyed them. Instead, their ship keeps fighting. Their entire design philosophy is based on the assumption that they will take massive damage and still need to complete their mission. How is this possible?" asked Lord Kimtar. "They come from what they call a death world," Thessarian replied. "Their home planet tried to kill them every day for millions of years. They evolved to survive in an environment that would kill most species in minutes. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, poisonous atmosphere, deadly predators. Their planet threw everything at them, and they survived it all." She changed the display again, showing images of Earth that human prisoners had provided. Under interrogation, the council members recoiled at the sight of violent storms, erupting volcanoes, and creatures that seemed designed only to kill. They developed intelligence not to create art or philosophy, but to find better ways to survive. And when they ran out of natural enemies to fight, they started fighting each other. They have been at war continuously for their entire recorded history. "Surely our superior numbers," began Lord Vexthul. "We don't have superior numbers," Thessarian interrupted. "Our intelligence reports indicate that humans have militarized their entire species. Every world they control is a fortress. Every civilian is trained for combat. Every factory can produce weapons. They have turned their whole civilization into a war machine." The display showed human colonies built into asteroids, underground, cities that could withstand orbital bombardment, space stations bristling with weapons. Unlike Catherian worlds, which were built for beauty and comfort, human settlements looked like military bases. "How many ships do they have?" asked Lord Kimtar. "Our best estimate is over 3,000 active warships, with the capacity to build hundreds more every month. And my lords, these are not patrol vessels like our fleet. These are ships specifically designed to destroy other ships. They call them battleships and dreadnoughts and carriers. We have nothing that can match them." The council fell silent as they absorbed this information. Finally, Lord Vexthul spoke. "What do they want?" "Total surrender," Thessarian replied. "They want us to disband our military, abandon our territorial claims, and submit to human oversight of our government. In exchange, they promise to allow our species to survive." "Unacceptable," roared Lord Kimtar. "The Catherian Empire will never submit to primitives." "They're not primitives," Thessarian shouted back. That's what we keep failing to understand. They are the most dangerous predator species the galaxy has ever produced. They didn't develop faster than light travel to explore the universe. They developed it to find new things to kill. She activated another recording, this one showing a human military briefing that had been intercepted. All colonial defense forces are now at full alert, came the voice of a human admiral. Intelligence indicates the alien empire has approximately 200 ships total, most designed for patrol duties. Our war games suggest we can achieve total victory within 6 months if they resist, or immediate surrender if they're smart enough to realize the situation. 6 months, whispered Lord Vexthul. The humans have been planning for this war since they achieved spaceflight, Thessarian explained. Every ship they built, every colony they founded, every weapon they designed, it was all preparation. For the day they would meet hostile aliens, we are not their first enemy, my lords. We are simply their latest victim. As if summoned by her words, a communication alert sounded throughout the chamber. The main display flickered, showing the bridge of a human warship. A stern-faced woman in a military uniform looked out at the assembled Catherian leaders. Lords of the Catherian Empire, she said, I am Admiral Chen of the United Earth Space Navy. You have 48 hours to consider our terms for surrender. If you refuse, we will begin military operations against your territory. You dare threaten us in our own space? Lord Kimtar demanded. Admiral Chen's expression didn't change. We're not in your space, my lord. We're in what used to be your space. In the last week, human forces have occupied 17 of your outlying systems. Your colonies have been evacuated, your military installations destroyed, and your ships either captured or eliminated. The display changed to show human fleets in orbit around Catherian worlds. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were now under the guns of human warships. This is impossible, Lord Vexthul said weakly. No, this is warfare. Admiral Chen replied. Something your species seems to have forgotten how to do. You relied on technological superiority for so long that you forgot the most important rule of combat. The enemy gets a vote. What guarantee do we have that you'll honor your agreement? Asked Thessarian. You have the word of the human species, Chen answered. We are not here to exterminate you. We are here to ensure that you never again threaten any other species. Surrender now, and your people will live. Continue to resist, and we will be forced to treat you as a threat to galactic peace. The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in absolute silence. Finally, Lord Vexthul stood on his platform. High Admiral Thessarian, what is your military assessment of our chances if we fight? Thessarian looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. None, my lord, we have no chance at all. The humans are not just better at warfare, they are warfare. Their entire species has been shaped by millions of years of conflict. We are artists trying to fight warriors. We are children playing with toys trying to fight adults with weapons. And if we surrender? Then we live. Our children live. Our civilization continues, albeit under human oversight. It's not the future we wanted, but it's better than extinction. The vote was unanimous. 3 hours later, High Admiral Thessarian broadcast the Catherian Empire's unconditional surrender to the human fleet. The war that Commander Zeftar had started with his arrogant decision to scan a human warship had lasted exactly 26 days. In that time, the most powerful empire in the galaxy had been reduced to a human protectorate, their military disbanded, their territories occupied. But as the human admiral had promised, the Catherians were allowed to live. Their cities were left intact, their people unharmed. The humans, having achieved their objective of galactic security, immediately began the process of integration rather than destruction. Within a year, former Catherian worlds were trading peacefully with human colonies. Former Catherian scientists were working alongside human researchers. Former Catherian leaders were serving in human administrative positions. The galaxy had learned a valuable lesson about humanity. They were not conquerors in the traditional sense. They didn't seek to rule for the sake of power or wealth. They sought to ensure that never again would their species face extinction at the hands of others. And as word of the Catherian defeat spread throughout the galaxy. Other species took note. Some, wise enough to learn from the Catherians' mistake, sent ambassadors to Earth offering friendship and alliance. Others, too proud or too stupid to understand the message, continued to view humanity as a threat to be eliminated. They would all eventually learn the same lesson that Commander Zeftar had discovered when he scanned that human warship. Never underestimate a species that turned survival into an art form, warfare into a science, and the protection of their own into a sacred duty. The age of human dominance in the galaxy had begun, not through conquest, but through the simple demonstration that some species were too dangerous to threaten. And in the end, that was perhaps the most human victory of all.